Welcome to the Real Estate Finder podcast. I'm Matthew Maschler, real estate broker with the Signature Real Estate Companies here in the great state of Florida. And with me, my real estate partner, Jill Glanzer. Hi, Jill. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. How is everybody over there?
We're doing good, and I have a very special guest in the studio today, my mom. Hi, Mom. How are you?
I'm fine.
Sometimes she's Mom, sometimes she's Grandma, sometimes she's Roxy.
I'm all three.
There you go. and yesterday you were Aunt Roxy. So we're here. We're talking about real estate. Mom's been looking at some real estate in Punta Gorda, Florida. How's that going for you?
I think we have found a hit.
All right. We spent the weekend picking out tiles and our front door and stuff.
Yes.
Very nice, very nice. Why Punta Gorda, Florida?
It was where the house was.
Well, that's where your brother is.
But why did you start looking in Punta Gorda? Because your brother's there?
Basically, because my brother was there. Yeah.
And
That's cool.
And your nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews.
I got people.
Yeah.
You got people there. I like it.
Yeah.
I got people there. I was also looking over here, too.
Sure.
And I got people here, too.
There you go. So here on the podcast, we like to, obviously, it's a real estate podcast. So I had a question the other day over the weekend about seller financing. One of my agents asked me what I know about seller financing, which I think is an interesting question. It's, I don't know if it would be helpful to tell, I can talk for an hour or I could teach a course on seller financing. Yeah. I didn't necessarily know what the agent wanted to find out. Obviously, they're in a situation where somebody's asking for seller financing. So you have to identify, are you representing the seller? Are you representing the buyer? Who's asking for it and why?
Right. What are they trying to accomplish?
If you're working with a buyer and the buyer wants to buy a house with seller financing, you're going to have some problems. Find yourself a buyer that has some money or some credit that could take a traditional loan from a bank, because it's going to be hard. It's hard enough to find a house that people like. It's even harder to find a house where the seller's willing to finance the transaction. Most of the time, the sellers don't actually own their houses free and clear. Most of the time, the seller has a mortgage, and they're selling their house. At the closing, they're going to pay off the mortgage, and with the equity of the house, they're going to buy a replacement residence, and take a mortgage out on that one. But if you have a situation where the seller does own their house free and clear, they may be interested in finding a buyer who is willing to borrow the purchase price. If you have a house for sale for $500,000, and you have a buyer who has some money to put down, and for whatever reason doesn't want to borrow from a traditional bank, the seller becomes the bank. The seller lends the money. So if the buyer is putting 20% down, they're putting down $100,000, and the seller, instead of getting a check for $400,000 from the buyer, gets a promissory note from the buyer, and then the seller has to receives monthly payments as if they are the bank. They have to do everything a bank would do. They have to make sure the taxes are paid and make sure the insurance is paid, because if the new owner of the house is not insured and the house is flooded or has fire, the seller's collateral can be damaged, can be reduced. So the seller would have to take all those steps to protect themselves. But basically, that's what it is. It's the seller making the loan to the buyer so the buyer can own the house. There's strict underwriting rules in mortgages, especially nowadays. They don't always apply to seller financing. A seller doesn't have to determine the credit worthiness of the buyer and follow all the formulas that a mortgage lender has. It's an exception on seller financing. So a person who sells their own property, it's called taking back paper or taking back a loan. So what I was saying is, if you're on a buyer consultation and the buyer says to you, I don't really qualify for a mortgage, so I'm going to look for a deal with seller financing, it's going to be difficult. You're going to have a difficult time with that buyer, because most of the time the sellers can't. The reason the seller's selling the house is because they want to sell the house and they want the money from the sale of the house, and they're not going to be able to fund the house themselves. I'm trying to think
There's a field in the MLS for it.
There is a field in the MLS.
Yeah. It's probably not that many listings. There is a field for, there's different financing options that you could check when you're listing a property, and seller financing is one of the fields. So you can say that you're willing to do that. Right. Matt, why would a seller want to finance?
Well, it depends. Obviously, it depends on what the seller wants to do with the money, right? If they're going to take the money and invest it anyway,
right? They can make a higher percentage.
Yeah, they'll make a rate of return. Sometimes you can't get a mortgage on the property. If there's a reason you couldn't get a mortgage on the property, if it's one of those condos where where there's problems lending, right?
Or it has an old roof, or there's something that makes it so that they can't pass through a lender,
right?
Then it behooves them to do it because they still need the money. They still want to be able to sell their property.
Right. So in that situation, right, good luck finding a buyer. Right. You can't get it. No bank will loan. So I'm offering seller financing. Well, in that situation, you'll have trouble finding a buyer. In the buyer situation, the buyer wants seller financing. Good luck finding
a property.
The seller. So you have to, sometimes you can make these matches.
Right.
But yeah, so that's, and then obviously, you're going to need a lawyer. The title agency generally has a lawyer that can write up that note and mortgage for you. There is a particular addendum, so you use the Florida as is contract with the seller financing addendum, and then you have the lawyer write up the note and the mortgage. You file you record the mortgage just like any other mortgage, and now the buyer is paying monthly mortgage payments to the seller. You don't have to go 30 years. You can do a shorter term, like 3 years, or you can do some kind of balloon where at the end of a shorter period of time, the buyer really has to refinance, or you can stretch it out for 30 years. In the situation with this particular buyer, with this particular agent asking me, it was a buyer and seller. They knew each other. They had expressed interest in doing the deal this way, which is good. Although I don't know if the buyer and seller have already matched. What do they need an agent for?
Right.
How are you going to get 3% or 6%?
Maybe they wanted them to facilitate the deal, but you're right. Maybe. They're probably not going to pay them that much.
Yeah. To reach out. This was the buyer that asked my agent about seller financing and told them which seller to call. So obviously you have to call the seller and get the listing or at least a commission agreement.
Right.
So that seemed a little odd, but yes, most of the time these things all sound great, but in practice they can be difficult to achieve. Most sellers just want to sell the property and move on when they've decided to sell. Sometimes they'll rent out the property. So then you have to talk about what's the difference between being a landlord and being a mortgage holder. And there's a lot less risk simply being a mortgage holder. You're not dealing with tenants and evictions. You're not dealing with, I have a repair, I'm going to deduct it from my rent, because nobody can make a repair at their house and then think they can deduct it from
the mortgage.
Yeah. But you also have to be careful and make sure that the buyer really does understand that it is not a landlord-tenant situation. And if you have to, paint the garage because the HOA said we need you to paint the garage, don't be looking at the bank for that.
Right. Don't be looking at the seller to do that.
Which the seller is basically the bank.
Yeah.
In that situation.
Exactly.
So
because everything's going to change title into their name, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's just the only difference is that instead of a bank, it's the seller. So they would have to look at it that way. They would have to pay their own insurance, and you'd have to decide: are you going to escrow that? Like, are you going to be in charge of that? Usually, a seller isn't, right, Matt?
It's hard for the seller, one property, one lender to
facilitate
to create an impact account.
Right.
And start escrowing for mortgages and taxes.
That's a lot of management.
You could theoretically use a percentage of the of the proceeds at the closing to put into that impact account. I know with banks there's strict rules on how much, because the government doesn't want the banks to take way too much to hold it in that reserve. So I don't know if a seller of their own property is also restricted in how much they can hold in that reserve.
Right.
But you really want to be making sure that the buyer knows that they have to pay for that.
What I think is interesting is I know a seller who holds paper, and he gets the notifications if they don't pay their insurance. He'll get the notification in the mail saying so and so is about to be canceled.
Yes, the lender is an additional insured on the insurance policy, so the insurance will notify the lender when it's up for renewals, etc. And you also make it a term of the note and the promissory note and the mortgage that if they don't pay their mortgage, if they don't pay their insurance, or if they don't pay their taxes, now they're in violation of the note. They're in default of the note and mortgage.
Right.
And you could actually foreclose.
Right. The good thing is that, it's like for the seller to hold that paper, it's good for them because they're going to get their payment every month and their interest payment every month. And if they don't make their payments, they can foreclose.
Right.
So they have that collateral.
And they know the property pretty well. So if they're selling the property for $500,000, they have $100,000 down, that's in their pocket. And if the buyer doesn't make the payments, then they foreclose, get the property back.
Right.
So it's
the thing is, if you're a buyer looking for seller financing, you also have to agree to the terms of that. It could sound really good. Oh, I want seller financing, but if the seller's only willing to go 15%, interest, then it might not be what the buyer wants. So now you're even narrowing it down even more. I mean, there's only a small number of properties that even offer that, and then you have to be agreeable with the terms.
Right. I like to say yes, and I don't mind hairy deals and situations. But when a buyer comes to me with, I want to rent to own or I want seller financing, I'm always like, I'm going to need a better buyer.
Right. And also it's like, okay, those are words, but you're not explaining your terms. Like, oh, will they take seller financing? Well, why don't you make me a written offer explaining the terms that you're requiring or requesting so that we could make a deal? Because if you're just saying, will so-and-so do seller financing, that's fine, but name your terms. Like, what are you looking for? And so many people don't do that, I feel. Like in real estate deals, they want to verbally ask these questions, but without any real background, without any real substance. Like an agent will come to me and ask that question, but then they won't really understand it. And they won't understand the terms that the buyer's asking for. So it can be frustrating. You really have to be patient, I think, if you're going to do this and want to learn, be on that journey to learn and understand it more and to make the deal come together.
So I'm in the MLS, and of 43,000 listings in the MLS, owner financing, there's 468, and seller financing, there's 101.
Wow.
I don't know why there's a difference between,
owner and seller?
Yeah, but then again, it's 468, 101, so it's 618 in the entire MLS.
Wow. Out of 43,000 listings.
Out of 43,000. And if we limit it to just Boca Raton, there are 22 listings that are owner financing where it's checked. And one of them is the $16 million mansion that's been for sale forever, that's owned by Investments Limited people.
Oh, how funny.
But there's all prices here from 200,000 to 16 million.
Some really high end properties will accept it.
A nice house in Boca West. That makes a lot of sense. $140,000 in Boca West, and it makes sense because presumably the owner owns it free and clear.
Right.
And it says owner financing with 30% down at a rate of 8%.
So they named their terms, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually not a bad rate considering the rates today from the banks. So they're really, really, because they really want to sell that property. And apparently that's a strategy they're using because they couldn't sell.
Right.
Right? So it's a strategy like, okay, I'll hold the paper.
Yep. So hopefully I answered my agent's question. What do I know about sellers financing? Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions about seller financing, email us, Matt at Real Estate Finder, or call 561-208-3334 with any questions you want us to answer or any topics you want us to talk about on the Real Estate Finder podcast. And then because I have my mom in the studio today, I want to ask my mom a question about real estate. You know,
you know more than you think.
So, Mom, what was it like, the house where you raised me in Staten Island?
Yeah.
Do you remember buying the house? Talking to the microphone.
I think so.
Like, do you remember what it was like looking at houses?
Long time.
I know it was. But do you remember the first time you saw the house? Remember liking it?
Staten Island's house. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw it. I liked it.
You were very young, no?
You were a baby?
I think I was inside.
That is so long ago. It's going very far back.
I don't want to say what the address was because there's a lot of identity theft.
Right.
They use
Why was it 3892? Something
Nope.
like no.
7.
38. Oh, 7 Vassar Street.
There you go.
That's it.
So if you're trying to hack my hack my identity, you got my mom's name. You got the street I grew up on. What was the dog's name?
Female Herbie. Except for when Herbie came over, then she was Herbietta.
Do you remember how much the house was when you bought it?
Not a clue.
Not a clue.
Do you know?
No.
Probably like 20,000 or something crazy.
Probably something like that.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's so long ago. I can't remember yesterday.
All right. So, so you're not going to be helpful with our home search for Staten Island. Or what about your house in Las Vegas? What about? Do you remember looking at that house?
I think we were looking at the models.
At the models. You're the original owner.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You bought it new, brand new.
Brand new. Yeah.
Did you customize it? Like pick out all the finishes or no?
I believe so.
Nice.
Oh,
That's a long time ago.
She picked out everything. She picked out all the appliances.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think I had some help on the appliances. They suggested this one or that one.
Oh, they were in the sales and design center.
Yes.
So they made a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
Right.
They make a huge difference there.
I think a couple of times design people and Barry had some words.
What's your favorite upgrade that you put into the house?
The heated floor in the bathroom.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, I have a fight with my brother because he didn't want to do it. And I said, but I want it. It's not what you want.
Right.
Right? I happen to love it.
So tell me about it. You got the heated. Is it on all the time or you have to turn it on?
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
I keep it on all the time. I love it. You get out of the shower. Just like the heated towel racks. When you go to a hotel, they have heated towel racks, and it feels nice when you get out of the shower. Well, the floor is the same way.
Yeah. That's a lovely feature.
Not too many people know about it, and I even now to this day, my current house, and I said, I want the heated floor, and they go, you don't need it. I go, but I want it.
Yeah, want and need is different.
There's a lot of things that we want that we don't need.
And if I've been living with that for a long time, I don't want to give it up.
Right.
That's important to me.
Right. And what I didn't have in my house currently is the heated towel rack. Right? But even when that house was being built, and the people who were putting everything together and the flooring and everything, they go, you don't need it, it's Vegas. I go, but the floor is still cold.
It is. Yeah, you take a shower and it's got tile floor. I don't care whether you're living in Texas at 120 degrees or Vegas or New Jersey. It's the same thing.
That's what I said to them. I said, but I want it.
Why are you trying to deter me from getting it? I'm wanting to pay you for it.
But I won.
That's awesome. I love that feat. In fact, I've looked at a lot of really high-end houses, Matt. I've never heard anybody say heated floor.
No.
Maybe there's been there, but they haven't told me that.
Exactly. Nobody really tells you. And any of these selling features when you go to a model house or anything, nobody says boo about it. I'm the only one who happened to have learned about it.
Yeah.
And that's why I want it.
That would be the headline for your house. Heated bathroom floor. And that's all people need to know.
And everybody who walks in, they go, wow. Because I tell everybody who's new, new in who I met new, or who've never been to my house, I says, go check out my bathroom.
That's awesome.
Right? And then they see my swan.
Oh, you have a swan in there?
I have a swan where the water comes out.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is so cool.
Faucet.
A faucet. A swan faucet?
I have a swan
That's
faucet.
super cool.
So
does it look like the swan is like spitting out water?
Exactly.
I
love it. I want to take it with me.
Yeah, sounds beautiful. I have a lady who has fish, beautiful glass fish in her. She never uses her tub, but when you walk in there to look at it, it's all these colorful, beautiful glass fish in there. It looks pretty.
But the water's coming out of the fish now?
No, that's a new thing. The swan is pretty special because I've never seen that.
It's a brass swan,
gold.
Mm-hmm. And so the faucet is also gold. And
when you turn it on?
It's a black tub with gold faucets.
Oh, I love that.
I love it. I want to take it with me.
You could probably find a way to duplicate it, I would imagine. Or find that hardware somewhere else. Or a faucet.
We have to go to Miller's.
Miller's.
They would have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I want in my new house.
Sounds pretty.
It is. It's gorgeous. I show between the heated floor and the swan.
And then in Las Vegas, you live in an HOA community?
Yeah.
How do you like living in an HOA community?
I have, as long as they don't bug me too much, because I know they bug some other people, but I follow directions.
Do they have rules of like when you have to bring your garbage cans in?
Usually, yeah.
Oh, Jill, get this.
Yeah.
Mom and I were talking on the drive over here. She uses one of those services that cleans your garbage can.
Garbage can.
Oh yeah, I remember that
Bubble
existed,
bins.
but I feel like is it here anymore?
Yeah, they have them here.
I think that's great.
It's great. Either once a month or weekly.
They sanitize it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because then when you open it up, it's not disgusting.
I can't smell. No, I lost my sense of smell.
Right.
So I can't tell if the garbage is smelly or not.
Oh.
Not that I put anything
that's smelly in there. Yeah.
Right.
But it's garbage at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it's wrapped up in a bag.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, but
See, if I was going to do that with, I would just not use the bag. I'd just put like the garbage in there. Save the bag.
In other words, really make them do their job once a month. Like that shit is
throw
dirty.
the eggs, leftover pizza right in the garbage can.
No,
and then the garbage truck guy comes and all slides out.
Oh, but it's, and they're very nice about it. Sometimes I miss a pickup.
Right.
Because it's a regular and a recycle. I have
pickup.
Two cans.
Yep.
Right? So sometimes I might have missed the recycle one. So the bubble bins, they pick up whatever I left for the first one.
I'm just like, why does she need this if she can't smell anyway?
I can't smell, but I don't want it to smell all over the
You don't
place.
want other people to smell it.
But don't forget, I have to bring the garbage cans back, and I keep them in the garage.
Oh, so you want it to be clean.
So I want to make sure.
I've never cleaned my garbage cans.
Would you pay for that?
If it was needed.
If it was needed.
But I thought it was a nice feature. It wasn't that expensive.
Yeah.
It was $19 a month. But
It's on a subscription, and if you had Rocket Money, you might see that it goes up $2 every year.
What's Rocket Money?
Oh, that's a whole other subject. It's a subscription service, so subscriptions tend to go up, and that's how they make their money. But hopefully they're not charging you more than $19.99
No, it's $19
a month.
It's $19.
If you've had it for like 5 years, it hasn't gone up?
I have it for a long time. I don't know how long, but I know it's a long time.
Check your credit card statement.
I have to go into the computer and look to see when I started it.
I'm not trying to make you nervous. I think it's just one of those things. But I would love to have my garbage clean because I feel like mine just.
Well, I mean, what could be the worst thing? The day that the garbage truck comes and empty out your garbage can, you take the hose and wipe it down.
I know, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
because you got to fill the whole thing up.
Well, you don't have to fill the whole thing, but just
spray it.
Inside and
it's work.
It's work.
It's work. I don't want to do that.
I don't do any work. I'm a princess.
I should make my cleaning lady do that.
Why not? She's your cleaning lady.
Right.
That's part of the job.
Yeah.
I would do it.
Right, just make the cleaning person clean the garbage cans.
Yeah.
Like once a year.
Yeah.
No,
it's like
more than once.
Like every quarter, at least.
But they're super.
They're nice.
The people who run that business, they're super.
They're
nice.
really happy because they're getting a subscription.
Sometimes I might miss the regular garbage men, for the recycle bin, and they take it away.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's nice.
Yeah,
and
it's a good extra service for a princess.
For the fact that it's not a hell of a lot of money.
No,
and at least you have it. It's clean.
Yeah,
and they do. They
scrub it.
They scrub it out.
Is it a robot that does it or a person?
Person.
Okay.
It's like two or three people.
Nice.
Somebody's driving and two people get out and
scrub it.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the guy that scrubs it, when he gets a promotion, he becomes a driver. Oh, that's funny. That was a good laugh. I like that.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on the Real Estate Finder podcast. Again, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to address, please feel free. Please feel free to email us, Matt at Real Estate Finder, Sales at Real Estate Finder, or Jill at Real Estate Finder. And you can call 561-208-3334. Leave a message. We'll play the message on. I always wanted to do that. Play the message, and then we'll answer the question.
Oh, I like that. We should do that next episode.
Yeah. All right, so we won't answer the phones just in case
okay.
It's someone wanting to leave us a message.
And I won't answer.
All right, check us out on realestatefinder.com. I'm Matthew Maschler, and check out our other podcast, the Matthew Mania podcast, available wherever you're getting this podcast.
The future looks bright and the storms pass by. The sky's dark blue and it's almost that time. Light shows, cameras flash when I pass. Living in the moment, forget about the past. They save the best for last. Matthew Mania, we about to make a splash. Life is a marathon full of sharp turns. Gotta keep pace while the hands on the clock turns. High stakes, 5-star real estate. I run a show, you can tell the boss in a place. Electricity, energy, it vibrates. I'm always on time even if I'm late. Yeah, I make dreams come true. Living my life, hope the same for you. Success in my sights, got a real clear view. If you don't know the time, I'll give you a clue. You know what time, you know what time, you know what time it is. Yeah. You know what time, you know what time, you know what time it is. You know what time, you know what time, you know what time it is. You know what time, you know what time, you know what time it is. You know what time it is. You know whose time it is. You know what time it is. Matthew Mania, the time is his. You know what time it is. You know whose time it is. You know what time it is. Matthew Mania, the time is his. Yeah, got him shook, scared, can't look. We're not afraid of the big bad wall.